All right, and welcome to the online network of independent learning professionals. Today we're going to be chatting with Aunt Pugh, who was one of the original community members of ONILP. He has been in Bali for exactly 1 year today, and it's 11 o'clock at night where he is. So I am very impressed and thankful that he is spending his evening with us to talk about video and how to make more effective and efficient learning tutorials for students and for learners. We have spent much time together, like talking about all kinds of different things. And so I know e-learning architect is his website. He has started a new endeavor with Video Bites, which is another part of his business. And so I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Ant, and I'll stop sharing my screen and let you share yours. Maybe tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll jump right in, Ant.
Cool. Thank you so much for the introduction, Patty, and lovely to see so many faces that I can't see your faces actually, but I can see your little white Zoom names, which is nice to see. So many of those Zoom names that I recognize. I'm just going to try and start sharing my screen. Bear with me. Tell me when you can see something.
It is starting right now. Okay, we can see your PowerPoint. Slide 17. All right, here we go. Using video to create high impact content. Great.
Cool. Okay, so what I'm doing today, guys, is just, I'm afraid I'm going to treat you a little bit like guinea pigs, because I've been invited to speak at the Learning Technologies Conference in Singapore next week, which is, I'm really excited about. It's the first time it's the big conference that they do for kind of e-learning, digital learning in Europe. And they always have it in London. And it just so happens that this year is the first time they're running that conference in Asia. And I sent a speculative email to the organizer just to see if, they were looking for any speakers. And it turns out they were. So I managed to swing myself a gig at the event. So I've prepared this presentation in the last few weeks. It's been on my mind for a while, this presentation, and I've been mulling over ideas in my head, but I just thought you guys would be the perfect audience for it, because I really value your opinions. I really, respect you as peers and as people who, I've learned a lot off in the past. And you've always given me fantastic feedback and advice on anything that I've ever launched or shared with you. And hopefully, it's not just a case of me, going through my presentation and just to test it on you. I feel like I've got some valuable stuff to share as well. So yeah, hopefully this is an interesting presentation for you. Quick intro for those of you who don't know me. My name's Ant. I'm a British guy who's been in Bali for the last 12 months. I had a baby about 18 months ago, and we decided that we didn't want to live in London anymore. So we decided to do a bit of traveling. So I'm running my business remotely from over here in Indonesia. I started off working as an e-learning consultant. I started my business 3 years ago, starting as a kind of e-learning consultant, but I've now just launched about 6 months ago a new service called Video Bites, which is focused on software systems training, or bite-sized videos around software systems training. Still very early days, so I'm just sort of seeing how that goes. But so far, it's going quite well. So we'll keep my fingers crossed with that one and keep you posted. I guess, Patty, you can keep your eye on the questions if that's cool, and I can see you nodding, so that'd be great. And then just if you need to, feel free to interrupt or ask the questions at the end. It might be easy to wait till the end, but if there's something you specifically want to talk about, I guess I can jump back to the slide. Right, okay, I can't see my presentation, hang on. Okay, got it. Right, so today what I want to talk about is how we can best use video, especially in learning development, so creating high impact content using video. Before I start talking about the what and the how, I'd really like to tell you a little bit about the why, which is all about why I have these opinions. This hopefully will give you a little bit of context, to the stories I'm going to tell and to some of the examples I'm going to show. So if you don't mind humoring me, I'm just going to take you through a short history of my experience creating content, and I feel confident that will give you some clarity about why I feel the way I do about this topic. So let's go back 15 years. I graduated university in Bournemouth University in the UK, which is on the south coast. Can anyone spot me? I can't see your hands, so I'm going to assume you may or may not be able to spot me. For those of you who've never met me, you obviously won't know what I look like, but that's me on the front row there, when I had more hair on my head than I had on my chin. Times have changed. And when I graduated university, I was, my degree was a mix of kind of graphic design and computer-aided design. And I was dead certain I wanted to be a designer. But after 4 years of staring at a computer screen at university, I was really hesitant to start a career where I would just be sitting there staring at a computer screen. So I decided to get a job as a trainer. And I got offered a job training the software that I was learning about at university. So I did a few different jobs working as a kind of software systems trainer. And then out of nowhere, I got offered a job it was a training job, a software training job, but it was on board a cruise ship. So let's have a quick poll, actually. Just post in the chat window, guys. Do a quick Y or an N. Yes, if you've been on a cruise ship before. N if you haven't been. Just quite interested to see if anyone's been on a cruise before. A couple of no's, couple of yeses. Okay, probably about 50-50. Okay. Let me just get my slideshow back up. Right. I used to navigate ships in the Coast Guard. Oh, wow. I'm being put to shame by Jane here. She's probably got a few more stories than me, I would imagine. But anyway, this ship that you can see on your screen here is MV Arcadia, which MV stands for merchant vessel, if you're not familiar with that phrase. And this is a British cruise ship owned by P&O Cruises that was launched in 2006, so 11 years ago. And that was the year I actually boarded my first ever cruise ship and set sail on what was to be a kind of 3-month contract traveling around Europe. And on this ship, there was around about 2,000 passengers and 1,000 crew. And the majority of the people who were passengers were of a more elderly demographic and were essentially kind of looking for activities to keep them amused on the days when the ship was at sea. And my job was to teach computer classes. So as you can see me there at the front, pointing to the computer screen with my pencil. So we did kind of all sorts of technology and computer-based classes, things like, how to use eBay, how to transfer photos from camera to computer. In this image, you can see I'm teaching people how to remove red eye from their photos. And one of the most popular classes we ran was called Computers for the Terrified. And it kind of sounds a bit silly, but this was a kind of computer class that was aimed at complete beginners, people who didn't have a clue how to use their computer. And this taught me a few things, but one of the things that stands out most clearly about that experience was that I really needed to improve my teaching skills. So the case in point was that on the very first day I took this class, I asked everyone to move their mouse on the screen and to open Internet Explorer. And there was a chap on the front row. I don't know if this is him necessarily, but this is a picture of some of the people doing their classes. But one of the guys actually picked up his mouse in his hand and he was physically moving his mouse around on the computer screen. So he didn't have it on the table, he was moving it on the screen. And it really kind of surprised me. I was like, wow, how the hell does he not know how to use a mouse? But there were, people, this was kind of 2006 and the demographic was kind of between 60 and 70 years old. So, these guys, if we think the internet's only been around for 20 years, computers have only been 30, 40 years in people's houses. It's not surprising that some of these guys had, not grown up and were not feeling confident with computers. But the thing I really learned from this was that, I needed to really refine my teaching skills. And I did this job for almost 4 years over a number of different contracts. And excuse me. And what it did is it really taught me the importance of being able to break things down and being able to speak in plain English. Excuse me, guys. Just choking to death. Anyway, the classes turned out to be really popular. I think mainly because people didn't have the time or the opportunity to do something like this when they were at home. And people always used to whinge to me and said, oh, my son or my daughter always promises to teach me how to use a computer, but they just they end up just coming in and they'll take over and they do it all for me, and they don't actually show me what to do. And these guys were these guys were on a 2-week holiday. They had plenty of time to themselves, and they could sit there and practice and pick up the skills on their own speed. But one of the biggest objections I came up against was that the classes were great, but that they were worried that when they got home, they would have forgotten all the skills that they'd learned. And so I realized at that point that I really needed to think of ways not only to help teach them how to use a computer, but to help them apply those skills to the real world when they get home. So this turned into my first attempt at recording live training. So what I did is I set up a camera, ran my workshop just like normal, and then I went down to my cabin afterwards and I burnt the video to a DVD and gave those out to the people who attended the workshops. So that was my first venture into putting training into video format. Then I decided to kind of up the ante a little bit, and I wanted to kind of make this a bit more impressive. So my second attempt was screencasting. And I'm sure you're all familiar with this phrase, but screencasting is essentially where you record your screen and you record a voiceover as you're, undertaking some kind of task on the computer, so people can follow through what you're doing and then watch it on video later. So I do the same thing. I do my workshop, and then I'd go down to my cabin and I'd record a screencast of my workshop. And actually I started selling the DVDs to the passengers because I thought it was quite a nice little product and I could make a bit of extra cash doing that. So I would sell the DVDs at the workshops. And this is essentially how I got into developing digital training, or e-learning, if you want to call it e-learning. So this is really where my two passions of design and training came together. As I said, I spent a lot of time at university kind of studying design, and I was sure that's what I wanted to get into. But then I'd found this new passion and this new, what I thought was kind of a skill of being able to teach people, of delivering training. And that's where those two passions came together. And so I started to create interactive e-learning. And I was really excited about all the additional functionality that you could add above and beyond, just making a video. So, I was a bit like a kid in a candy shop with all the quizzes and the hotspots and the drag and drop functionality and the scenarios and interactions and you name it. I kind of learned how to do that. And I worked for a number of different companies as a learning designer, experimenting with different tools. And then I eventually started freelancing, doing exactly the same thing. And so this led me to experimenting with some of the different tools that were out there. I know there's kind of hundreds of interactive tools out there. I haven't used them all, but there are many that I have used, and I'll just bring up the ones that I've kind of played around with on the screen. So some of these that I've just literally had to play around with, some of these I've actually built, large courses with. And when I started creating content using these tools, especially when I started doing it as a freelancer, I'd take a lot of direction from colleagues or from subject matter experts or from my clients, because I knew that I had the skills to turn their expertise or their content into kind of a beautiful interactive experience, or a really nice engaging course or module with all the functionality I could imagine. But over time, as I developed more and more of these interactive courses or modules, I started thinking back to where I'd come from on the ship with these guys who are, learning who are terrified of the computer. These guys who are kind of learning how to use a mouse for the first time. And I started thinking about how the success of me being able to teach those guys wasn't just down to being able to stand next to them in the classroom, but was also about providing them support on an ongoing basis through DVDs or videos or whatever it was, and how important it was to think of something bigger than just that initial learning experience. And I think one issue that we face as learning designers is recognizing that training is just one piece of the jigsaw when we're helping people to acquire these new skills, or maybe to change behaviors or to increase the awareness of a topic, whatever it is that we're trying to deliver in our training. And that's just like those guys who are trying to learn how to use a computer. And I felt that during my time of experimenting with all of these tools, I was losing my focus on helping people perform whatever it was that they were trying to perform. And I was being distracted by all the fancy tools. And I think for me, the turning point really came when I started thinking that my role shouldn't just be focusing on delivering training, but it should mainly be focusing on supporting performance, essentially, actually changing the way people perform whatever task it was that they needed to change. And I think for me, that as a learning designer, that changes the way, I looked at my role a little bit. And I think, I think that's important for all learning designers to think of that broader spectrum. Rather than just delivering a training event, you're actually trying to support performance over the long term.
And if you need to get some water, we're happy to. We can wait a moment. Okay. We don't want you to choke to death.
I've got a real frog in my throat. I've got a bit of a cold, and it's just kind of come out when I started talking. I don't think I've spoken to anyone today, so it's.
It's everywhere. I know the cold is everywhere. Not a problem.
It's travelled over the Atlantic. It's long distance man flu. Okay, well, I'll carry on if you don't mind me coughing and spluttering now and again. It's fine to keep going. So what I wanted to do now is kind of break this down a little bit, because I've talked about training being the first part of the kind of journey that a learner goes on. And I've taken this from a kind of a structure. Actually, interestingly, I've taken this from a graph that was from a blog post that was recommended to me by our very own Christy Tucker. So a big heads up to Christy, who kind of guided me down this direction of learning about performance support infrastructures. And I think we had a long conversation on LinkedIn a couple of months ago, where Christy kind of pointed me in the direction of learning about moments of need and all this stuff, which was kind of new to me in that framework. I understood the concept, but I'd never kind of seen it laid out like that. So I should probably put a little photo of Christy in the corner of this slide. Yeah, I preempted you there, Christy. Yeah. Okay, so let me get back to this. So yeah, if we break this down a little bit, there are kind of 3 phases to helping performance. And if we look at, so I'm going to talk about helping performance rather than just training, if you like. And let's use our computers for the terrified as the example. So the first phase is, oh, my screen's just stopped, sorry. Yeah, so the first phase is training. And if we use, the cruise ship example, that might have been the classroom training. So the guys sitting in a classroom, 20 of them in front of a computer, listening to me talk. They're sitting there playing on the computers, practicing the things we're talking about. But that could just have easily have been, 200,000 employees spread around the world doing an e-learning course. The delivery mechanism isn't too relevant. But this is essentially understanding concepts, which would probably be known as mastery. And I've just provided some suggestions for different delivery mechanisms for that phase of the infrastructure. The second phase would probably be transferring those skills to a real world situation. So in this example, it would have been, what those old folks did when they disembarked the ship and they went home. It would be maybe using reference guides or videos or something to help embed those skills back in the real world. So they need to go home and they need to practice to ensure that they can still, make sure that they, can type an email or know how to use eBay, and they're going to be able to, really internalize those skills as part of their being. So that would be classed as kind of applying it on the job or the competency phase. And I guess there'd be different ways to deliver this. Could be reference guides, could be support documents, could be videos. If you've got any suggestions for things I've missed here, guys, I'd really appreciate that so I can add them into the presentation. But then the third phase would be the kind of sustain or the improve phase, I guess this would be as well. So you've already learned, okay, you've gone to your computer class, you've learned how to not get ripped off on eBay. You go home, you've practiced, you've sold a few bits and pieces. Right, now you want to learn how to use Facebook, let's say. So you've got to kind of innovate and improve. You're going to improve your skills in that particular arena. And, you could use all types of different support for this, but, if you think about it, in this day and age, social media would be a big one. We could maybe go on, Facebook groups or go on Twitter and find hashtags that are relevant to what we're doing. Or if you're internal in an organization, you might be on Yammer or some kind of internal wiki. If it's kind of an external piece of software you're learning about. It might be an external product. You might have customer support who you can ask questions to, blogs, podcasts, videos, all different types of support or ways to continue your learning and your growth. So that's kind of my kind of 3 phases. Sorry, I'll just skip through a couple of slides. There we go. So where exactly am I going with this, and how does this relate to creating video content? Well, if we go back to our list of interactive tools, which is essentially which I would probably say, if we look at these tools here, so we've got Storyline, Articulate Studio, Captivate, they're all kind of these classic kind of e-learning tools. Yes, okay, some of them are, a bit more modern, Articulate, Rise, Adapt, Go, Elucidate, they're the kind of HTML5 versions. You've got other kind of different bits of software, branch tracks, kind of quite a bespoke piece of scenario software. But they're all creating content that would probably be most applicable to that first phase of the infrastructure. And that's, as I said, it's just the first piece of the jigsaw. And I think that our job as learning professionals is to focus on all 3 of those phases rather than just that first phase. Which, in my experience, that can often happen because, I think we get so sidelined by, right, we've got to create a training course. That's where all of our energy goes, and we don't spend so much time thinking about phases 2 and phases 3. And I know that this is extremely relevant for me now as a freelancer. And it's sometimes a real conflict of interest when a client comes to me, or a potential client comes to me and says, can you build an e-learning course around this? Here's your PowerPoint. Here's all your content. We'll give you, £20,000 to go and build this. Can you do this? Obviously I can go and do it and, make some money in the process. But as a professional, it's actually my responsibility to say, well, hang on a minute. Why do you want an e-learning course for this? What are you trying to achieve? It's a bit like if we were to go to the doctor. I'm not the expert. Let's say I've got a pain in my chest. If I go to the doctor and say, hey doc, I've got a pain in my chest, can you remove my heart? If he turned around and said yes and lay me down and started, getting his tools out, probably be a bit of a bad decision on my part and on his, to be honest. It'd be irresponsible on his part, wouldn't it? So in the same situation, if a client comes to me and says, look, can you build an e-learning course? I've got a conflict of interest there because yes, I could build it, but actually I don't want that client to go away with an e-learning course thinking that the e-learning course is going to solve their problem, when actually, it might be that a simple email to his staff would do the same thing, or a PDF document or a video or something different might help, or probably a combination of all those things. But we're only looking at that first piece of the jigsaw. So where does video fit into this? Well, I think this is up for debate, and I'd be really keen to hear your opinions on this. But it seems to me that video is probably one of the most flexible forms of content and could probably be used in all 3 of those phases. So, not just in the initial training, but it could also be used to transfer the knowledge on the job. And it could also be used to sustain, and to improve and to innovate in the future. So why is video such a great medium for training? Okay. First of all, let me click all of these because I think my animations are a little bit messed up. Okay. So first of all, why is video a great medium for training? It's very easy to deliver. Okay. The golden rule is for delivering performance support is that it should be able to be accessed within 2 clicks of a mouse or within 10 seconds. And that's assuming that the mouse is on the table and not on the screen. But that rules out, if you think about it, that rules out 99% of our learning management systems because they take a long time to log into, to navigate your way around, to find the course you're looking for, to find the piece of information you're trying to find. So there are so many other ways that we can deliver video in addition to the LMS that it means that video becomes an option for this performance support section. So other ways that we could deliver video could be via links to a wiki or a support website, links to social platforms like YouTube, Vimeo, Wistia. Some quite novel ways that we could deliver video content that I've been thinking about and working on recently has been like delivering by email. So you could set up a kind of series of email autoresponders and have those videos embedded into the emails, or at least links embedded into the emails. And then as the emails go out, people click on the links and then they get taken to the video and they can watch online. So that would be another mechanism that we could use to deliver the videos. We could use quizzes or questionnaires. If any of you have used like Wooform, I think it's called Woofu, or there's another one called Typeform. You can actually add video into the questionnaire and then, you know, ask questions after each video. So it's another way of kind of learning. And I know that there's some SaaS companies out there that use that as a kind of form of onboarding to their software. I'm even working with a client at the moment who's actually embedding help videos into the software that the training is all about. So if you're learning how to use a computer system, as you're navigating around the computer software, you can actually click on the help videos that are sitting next to the features that you want to understand, and the window pops up and you can watch a little video. So it seems to me that there's like a whole plethora of options for delivering the video content. The second reason that I think video is a great medium is that it's perfect for mobile consumption. Yes, of course, Storyline courses and Captivate courses work on iPhones and Android. And, you know, we hear about these companies saying how they're all mobile optimized. But I don't know about you guys, and I'm sure you can point me in the direction of content that is good on mobile. But in my opinion, I have seen very few courses that work as well on a mobile device as they do on a desktop computer. And I think that's the real beauty of video, is no matter, unless you're, you know, maybe screencasting is a good example where you're filming a kind of a desktop of a platform and you don't maybe zoom in. It can be a little bit small to see the, you know, the text on the screen, but video's just got that flexibility to create content that can be viewed on any device, you know. And I will consume numerous different videos on my phone, on my iPad, on my computer, and I don't really think to myself before I watch it what device I'm on. I just watch the video, and it's easy to consume that information. Production costs. I'm going to go into some of the different types of video that we can create in a moment. Production costs, I think, are drastically lower on the whole when we create video. There's always the exception, but I think, you know, if we were to take an hour of interactive e-learning and put that side by side to next to an hour of video content, I think we could create video with a lot less cost. And then the hosting costs as well can be a lot cheaper depending on which option we look at. I mentioned a couple there. YouTube, obviously that's free. You know, in fact, I was chatting to Patty before this presentation, and I asked her, you know, are you going to record this presentation? If so, can you send me the video? And her response was, I'm going to put it on a private YouTube link for you so that you can watch it and nobody else can see it. It's a perfect example of being able to share video in a private way. You know, things like unique URLs. So what we can do, I'm sure you're all aware within YouTube, is as you're watching a video, if you get to a certain point of the video and you want to share just that, you know, 20-second moment of the video, you can just share a unique URL, which is so powerful if you think about it. Even if you've broken your videos into 2 or 3 minute videos and you want, you know, a customer emails in and asks you a question about how something works, to send them back a video clip that you can point them to the specific moment of the video where they need to learn something. You know, you're talking about instant, you know, performance support essentially, and that person's going to instantly see the part of the video that they need. And I'm sure in the future that will, you know, I'm sure it's probably happening already, where that, you know, that customer support process will be automated, self-serve, where people type in a help query and the help, you know, the help, the result will point them to a specific point in a video. You know, so that kind of that flexibility, that power is so, you know, so useful and only really relevant to video. And then compatibility as well. So any device can play videos, no matter the size, the software, whatever operating system they use. Okay, actually, just before we had this presentation, I'm working with a chap over in America who's helping me build some videos, and he sent me a video and I couldn't play it. So I might need to rethink this point. He exported it and it was trying to play in Apple QuickTime, which I didn't have installed. So there are obviously exceptions to the rule, but I would guess that the majority of videos that we try and play, we can play instantly. And, you know, you can even watch videos on your TV now with gadgets like Amazon Fire Stick and Chromecast and Apple TV and stuff like that. So, I mean, and I'm sure there's many other benefits that I haven't mentioned there. So if you've got any more suggestions on advantages to video or suggestions to why videos are a great option for training, I'd be really keen for you to share them with me as well. So let's move on. Sorry, my animations are a bit messed up on this slide. I was working on this up to a few minutes ago. I'm just going to go through now. How long have we been going? 23 minutes. I'm just going to be another sort of 5 or 6 minutes. I just want to talk you through some techniques for creating video content. And I haven't had time yet to come up with examples to show you for each technique. So that's something I'm going to be doing in my presentation next week. So if you're keen to see these and you'd like to see this presentation, I'll put this presentation onto my YouTube channel once it's finished, and you can go and have a look at some of these examples if you're keen. So the first example, first technique essentially for creating video content, and this is something I did at one of the companies I used to work at, was to record live training. So a little bit like I just talked about when I recorded myself in front of a classroom. That was quite a crude way of doing it, setting up a video camera and pointing it at myself and recording myself talking, especially in a classroom environment where I had people on computers and I was walking around helping people. It wasn't the best setup. But recording live training is a brilliant way to quickly get content from the classroom online. And this is something we did at a company I used to work at. So we used to deliver a company induction. I think it was held 4 times a year. And all the new stuff, it was a huge company, and all the new starters would fly over to London and attend this one-day induction. And, you know, at huge cost to the business, not only of the people, you know, traveling over, but all the trainers. I think they have 4 or 5 different trainers presenting different parts of it. They'd all have to take a day off work to do this induction, and people would miss it, and people would be off sick, or they'd miss the start date. And, you know, the whole point was, let's get this induction online and we could just save so much money. But we didn't have a huge budget to build like an interactive kind of training course around this. So the quickest way, and we had so many other commitments, other training commitments, the quickest way that we could see to take that content and put it online was to physically stick a video camera in front of the classroom and film the training session. Now, as I said, that's quite crude in its basic format, but there's a load of different things you can do in that situation to massively improve the quality. So I'll list a few, and I'll list them starting with the most important. The first thing that we did was added a lavalier microphone. So that's a little microphone that clips to your collar. You can get wireless ones that are, you know, relatively inexpensive, and then the receiver sits on the video camera. So as you're talking, whoever's, you know, presenting the training session, as they walk around the room or as they walk around in front of the screen, talking and gesticulating, all of their audio is being captured by the microphone clipped to their collar, and that gives you incredible quality audio. Now, it sounds a bit strange, but having fantastic quality audio is more important in video than having great picture quality, because I'm sure if you've listened to watch videos before on YouTube, if the picture's great but there's a lot of wind noise or a lot of crackle and hiss, you know, you don't really want to watch it. But if the video is a bit grainy but you've got excellent audio quality, well, it's just like listening to a podcast, isn't it? You can still enjoy it and listen to it, and it's fine. So having that high quality audio is essential. So the next thing that you can do to improve the quality of your live training would be to add a second camera. So instead of just having that one video camera pointing at the presenter, you could take a second or third video camera and point it at the presenters from different angles, and that would give you a really nice way of cutting from angle to angle. And then, you know, as in the editing phase afterwards, you could then, you know, move from different angle to different angle, still using that incredible audio quality that you captured with your lavalier microphone. A third technique to add on to that would be to capture the screen as well. So you could use screen capture software like Camtasia if the presenter's doing a PowerPoint presentation, or if they're doing a kind of software demonstration. You can record their screen as they're talking. So you've then got 3 layers of video that you could start cutting together, and you're starting to come up with a really kind of nice, nicely edited video there, which is going to really keep the viewer engaged. And if we've got a one-day training course, you know, that's potentially could be 5 or 6 hours worth of training. Having one video camera angle would be insanely boring, but having, you know, editing between 3 different camera angles could make it a lot more interesting. And then the kind of final tip for that process would be to take all that video footage and really chop it down into kind of bite-sized pieces, so that you've ended up with, instead of having, you know, 5 hours of training in one video, you might have, you know, 5 lots of 25 little videos, and then you can just use those to kind of individually name and individually label, and you could put them into a nice structure, and you could host that on a nice web page, and then on your learning management system obviously is another option. But then you've got that content, it's all organized, it can all be tagged individually. People can watch just one piece rather than watching the whole thing. And that's, you're talking about an extremely small amount of work in comparison to creating an interactive e-learning course. And I'm sure people will say it's not as effective, and I'm sure they're right, depending on, who builds it and how it's built. But I'm talking about kind of a time and a cost perspective. This is, an incredible way to create content. Another way you can create video content would be presenter-led content. So presenter-led content, how does that differ from recording live training? Well, you would actually set up in a studio. So you could set up kind of it could be a professional actor, or it could actually be the presenter who, the person who's doing the training, but set them up with lights. I'm currently working on a project with a client at the moment where we're doing exactly this. We've got some actors, we've got a script. We're not getting them to read the script off the screen because it can feel a little bit kind of formal and a little bit scripted, obviously. So what we're doing is we're getting kind of bullet points, and we're getting them to learn, the topic. It's not a huge amount of content, so it's totally feasible. And so we're getting them to talk very naturally into the camera, and we're we're using kind of a nice kind of we're renting a kind of nice studio, which it's not like a green screen background. We've got like bookshelves and like an office background and a sofa and all these different kind of scenes that we're going to set up, so it feels kind of very relaxed and homely. But we can create this training, and again, if you're talking about 2 hours of video training, you might start thinking, oh, it's expensive to hire actors and hire studios, but how much does it cost to deliver an hour's worth of interactive e-learning? How much does that cost compared to creating an hour of presenter-led training? The costs are probably less with the videos, so it's another really very tangible way of creating content using video. The third option would be to create a presentation with voiceover. So exactly like I'm doing today, I've created a presentation. I'm presenting it to you guys, but I could actually just be talking to my microphone, and I could be delivering this presentation and recording it as a kind of screencast. I could do that with or without a script, but that could be another effective way of creating video content. Unscripted screencasting. So if you're doing software demonstrations, you could do that just ad hoc, talking as you guide somewhere around a piece of software, and exactly the same concept can be applied, but with a script. I'll bring up my new website at the end of the presentation, and if you're interested in seeing some examples, I've actually created a little video demo which shows you the difference between scripted and unscripted screencasts. So if any of you are interested in seeing that, I'll put the link on the screen afterwards. Whiteboard videos, I'm sure many of you have used. In fact, there was a conversation the other day in the Slack group about VideoScribe. Somebody was asking about VideoScribe videos. That's sort of become all the rage recently. There are many other tools that do the same thing, or you can do them manually. But those whiteboard videos can be a great way to explain a process. I always see that as being the equivalent of kind of a flip chart in the classroom, is when somebody wants to scribble something down and explain something. Using those whiteboard videos can be a great way to create video content. Explainer videos, very similar to whiteboard videos, but maybe a bit more fancy with characters and animations, and using software like GoAnimate, Powtoon, Adobe After Effects if you want to increase your budget and make them a little bit more fancy. Recorded webinars are really quick, and this is again something I did at a company I used to work at. Is we didn't have huge amounts of budget to create a lot of content, so the quickest way we could get a lot of content out to a huge number of people was to record subject matter experts delivering kind of expert webinars. So they would do a 45-minute presentation. We'd get exactly like Patty's doing today. She's recording me using the Zoom software, and then she just uploads that video onto her own computer or onto the cloud. And I mean, some LMS these days actually have conferencing functionality built into the platform, so you can actually record your webinar through the LMS and then at a click of a button make it available to your LMS audience. So that can be another great way to create video content. And vlogging as well. Some of you probably have seen me waffling on about it on the Slack, but I recently started vlogging. So this is video blog, essentially, if you didn't understand the terminology. So this is very relaxed, very informal, talking in front of a camera. And I think this is brilliant from a learning perspective. I've learned more in the last 3 years of running a business than I did at any of my formal education years. And that has come purely through things like podcasts, things like vlogs, watching YouTube videos, listening to interviews. this kind of social, informal learning, I think, is invaluable. And I think the more people can share, and the more people can share what they're doing, essentially, that's going to help colleagues, it's going to help customers, it's going to help, anybody and everybody who wants to learn about what you're an expert at. So I think that's another great way to create content. And I would say that the most powerful way to create video content is actually using a combination of all those things above. So we can create incredible videos using different elements that we just talked about, and that will really keep our audience engaged. It will keep them on their toes. And then obviously, in addition to creating all that video content, we can start adding interactive elements into that. So one of my current clients is doing a lot of video work at the moment. What we're doing is we're actually creating kind of the interactive element within the LMS. So using the quiz question functionality after they've watched the video to ask a few questions. And we can start building it out. We could start creating, interactive elements with Storyline and Captivate, and actually have that as a kind of subtopic underneath a couple of the videos. So you watch 3 videos, and then obviously you can, answer some questions or undertake an activity to make sure you've understood it and you know what you're doing. And, tools like Captivate and Storyline, you can do these simulations where you actually do this practicing and try it out in a kind of almost real life environment. So we're pretty much there for the presentation. So as I mentioned, this is my new YouTube channel. If any of you are interested in checking it out, it's youtube.com/Mr. Ant Pugh, and I've committed to doing 3 vlogs every week for the immediate future. I'm up to, I think, episode number 14 is about to go live today or tomorrow. So I'd really appreciate you checking that out and letting me know if there's anything there that's interesting to you. As you can see there, the second video is the one I was talking about, the script versus no script video. So if you're keen to learn more about the differences, and within that video, I've actually put some examples. So you can watch a screencast that I created without a script and compare it side by side to a screencast that does have a script. So that might be quite interesting for you. And as Patty mentioned at the start, I've recently launched a systems training video service, which is called Video Bytes. So that's at videobytes.co. Can't quite afford the .com yet, but hopefully get a few more projects through the door. I'll be able to go and buy that and won't have such a silly domain name. But yeah, there's some examples of our video screencasts on that website. There's a Video Byte on the homepage that you can see there that you can check out. And I'm starting to post quite a lot of resources now about different tips and tricks for creating video content. But that's about it for me. So as they say over here in Indonesia, terima kasih, which means thank you very much. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing all of that great information with us. And I'm sure that, video is something that many of us are involved with, and it's good to hear all the different ways that you can use it as a cheaper alternative. We do have a question from Greg, and this is pertaining to when you are using like the microphone and, for any of the voiceovers or video processes that you're using. Do you have a specific microphone or brand name that you like to use? I'll say that I use the Blue Yeti and I love it. So I'm going to go ahead and post a link to that in the chat. But any other thoughts and anybody else that has thoughts too, let us know.
Yeah, I did a bit of research. Obviously, I asked you about the microphones and you recommended the Blue Yeti. I got a few people saying negative things about that one, actually. So I ended up going for an Audio Technica. I think it's 21, the model is. Well, does it sound good? I'm using it now.
Yeah, I can hear you very well.
Cool. Well, it seems to be really good quality. And if you listen to any of the videos on the Video Bytes websites that have got my voice on them, I think most of those have been recorded since I've got the Audio Technica microphone. One problem I am having with it is it seems to record audio at a very low level sometimes. So when I capture it with I sometimes use Audacity, it doesn't kind of output it as a very high rate, if you know what I mean. Like it doesn't normalize it to the correct volume. So I probably need a bit of technical help with that. But going on to the lavalier microphones, I've got 2 of those, and I use it's a Boya, which is Boya, is the iPhone microphone. I plug into my iPhone, and it just uses it. I just clip that onto my t-shirt. Again, you can see in my vlogs, you can see me using that microphone, and you can hear the quality of those videos. That was $20, so it's so cheap. I recommend everyone get one if you've got an iPhone, because you can just plug it into your iPhone, record yourself speaking, and it's much better quality. And then I also was using wireless Sennheiser microphones when I was doing the classroom training, because obviously you don't want a cable attached to a video camera if the presenter's at the front of the classroom and you've got a camera at the back of the classroom. So that was a wireless setup, and they cost about $600 or $700 for a pair of those, which sounds like a lot of money, but actually I think if you're a company that's going to be doing a lot of this type of stuff, it's a really good investment, because they're really good quality. You get huge range. I think you can stand like 40 or 50 meters away from the receiver and talk, and it picks up perfect sound quality. So yeah, that's my recommendations. I think the question there from Christy, sorry, I think the Boya works on the Android as well. It's not an iPhone only mic. It's a kind of 3.5 millimeter jack, so it just plugs in. Just check that though before you go away and buy it.
Wonderful. And as we're in the Q&A part, if anybody else has questions, feel free to put them in the chat or just speak up. One question that I had, I think I know what your answer will be, but I was mentioning in chat. So I'm talking with one of my clients at the moment, and they have a lot of how-to videos. So imagine that, you are showing someone how to do something with your hands, like here's how we make this salad or whatever it might be. They're trying to, determine, do they want to go with, actors and really, nice looking, everything's professional, or do they want to kind of do it a little bit more quick and dirty, which, go more the route of let people that are already doing it, demonstrate how to do it and just, record it on the iPhone kind of thing. So I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
Yeah, well, I think it's really fascinating that you brought that up, because that's something. So have any of you guys heard of Gary Vaynerchuk? Just click do a yes or no in the chat. He's an American guy. He runs a company called Vayner Media. It's a big media marketing agency, and he used to run a company called Wine Library. He's basically an entrepreneur, and he's a very interesting chap. He's I think he's from New York, and he's like a very feisty little kind of opinionated guy. But check out his YouTube channel. He's really interesting. You spell his surname Vaynerchuk, Gary Vaynerchuk. But the reason I brought him up is his kind of methodology for marketing is that we should be documenting rather than creating. And what he means by that is, as business owners, we shouldn't be sitting in our kind of offices spending weeks and weeks writing the perfect blog post or creating the perfect demo to put on our website, or and yes, we can do that as well, but he says there's a lot more value in documenting what you're doing on a daily basis, because that way you can kind of keep the consistency of content up. And I know this is going on for a bit of tangent, Patty, because you were talking more about training rather than marketing. So I'll come back to that in a moment. But so his point is that, we should be on in order to generate more content and create more discussion and create more awareness about our brands. And this is, for those of us who are running our own businesses, we should be trying to document our journey. So, and you're seeing that's exactly what I'm trying to do in my vlogs. And I've talked about this a few times in my vlogs, is that, I'm sitting there in my vlog saying, I'm really struggling with this latest project because of X, Y, and Z, and I'm having a bit of a whinge. And obviously I wouldn't put that on my homepage of my website or talk to a new client about that, because I'm trying to kind of put over a very professional image in that situation. But on the vlog, I want it to be very kind of social and relaxed and conversational. And I think we're all sometimes, as especially in business, sometimes training companies or training departments or learning designers are so scared of putting out content that's not kind of picture perfect. And actually, an iPhone filming somebody washing a lettuce is probably, more than enough for most people to watch. It doesn't have to be some perfect studio lit presentation, And there's so many tools out there now. There's one that I've been haven't been playing around with it. I've been researching called, it's an LMS, or it's a social LMS called Fuse Universal. Is anyone familiar with that? Okay. No, yes. I think it's a British company. There's a few of them around. I think there's another one called Bloomfire. But the concept of these LMSs are, and I don't know if you can call them an LMS, but they're like a social platform, is that the learners can upload content as well as the administrator. So what you end up with, and yeah, I've actually did a webinar for one of our other communities, Patty. I don't know if you remember, we did a webinar for Vodafone last year, and they were talking about how they are encouraging their staff who are in store to film each other talking to customers. And I know, Diane, you mentioned you're not allowed to film people and put them into public spaces. So I'm not sure if they were filming the actual customers, but filming something to do with, what was going on in the store. And then they were sharing that on the platform so other people could learn from it. And the concept is, it's all about creating content quickly and creating useful content quickly, rather than going through that bottleneck of a training department, which slows everything down, usually doesn't have the budget to create what's needed, and then there's a complete lack of information. So having those platforms and that kind of infrastructure just makes the whole thing kind of tick, I guess.
Yep. Well, and it's also interesting. I always think of this time when I had some spaghetti noodles that were cooked, and I put them down my garbage disposal, and you should never do that. But I did not know it at the time, and they all came back up, and they got all mixed in the pipes, and it was a horrible mess. Anyway, I went on YouTube, and I didn't care, how the training looked. I just needed some kind of video to show me how to get spaghetti noodles out of my drain pipe. And by the end of that, 10-minute video, I was able to go in here and take the pipes off and get the noodles out and basically become a plumber in my mind. So I think at the end of the day, the question to ask is, can you learn from this? And a lot of the times, we're asking other questions, is the lighting perfect? Just things that don't really matter. They matter to us because we're creating it, but not to the people that are taking it.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't agree more.
No. Any other questions about videos, or maybe projects you're working on or have worked on with video, and comment yourselves about your thoughts?
That wasn't to me, was it, Patty? That was to the community.
No, that was to the community.
Cool.
And you said that your presentation is next week. What day?
Yeah, Wednesday the 8th. So
Wednesday
I'm going over to Singapore on Monday, staying there for the week, and yeah, looking forward to having a trip out.
Have you been to Singapore before?
Yeah, I've been a few times. It's very different to Bali. Bali's very kind of islandy, quite surfy, very chilled out, lots of beaches. Singapore's very Singapore reminds me of Britain, actually. Very orderly, very clean, much hotter than Britain, but it's very kind of organized and, very, very different to other parts of Asia. So yeah, looking forward to that.
Oh, exciting. Christy is asking if you've ever had any client pushback on doing quick and dirty videos rather than polished, professional, expensive.
Yeah, so the company I was talking about when I was doing the company induction and I did the videos, the primary role at that company that I was doing, for training that I was delivering, was actually training to customers. And that was the main reason we didn't have any budget for creating content for the employees, because they were so caught up on creating perfect content for customers that we weren't able to spend that kind of money on the employee training. And yeah, that company was exactly what you just said. They were totally against anything being kind of quick and dirty. It was all very kind of, right, this needs to be kind of very polished, and all that kind of stuff where you have marketing departments telling you've got to have the company logo on the corner of every single slide of a PowerPoint presentation and all that kind of stuff. And I just think that's a really bad way of looking at it. And I think if the customers are invested in what you're doing and the training that you're delivering, I don't think they would care about the quick and dirty, as long as it's not, misinformation or providing a negative view of the company. I think, not making everything perfect it's important. I'd much rather have that information and have the training than not have it, because the learning department can't deliver it all because they've got too much to do. So yeah, I have had that.
Yeah, and Christy mentions a good point, scenarios. I mean, if you're doing a scenario and it's with people and you're trying to show some kind of behavior, I've also ran into where we've had to use actors, because using employees often do not make good actors. That is an area where I'd say it's just going to be a little more expensive sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you could use the same analogy to say that trainers don't make necessarily good instructional designers or e-learning developers. How many times do you get trainers in companies who are, oh, that's the trainer, right? They can build the e-learning course, and they get the budget for the articulate storyline license, and they go off and design some horrendous, I think they call them Frankenstein courses, don't they? Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. If you're going to invest in video content with, you want people in front of the camera who feel confident doing it. If you've got the trainer, that's one thing, because they're already confident at delivering that content. But if you're doing a scenario, I would say, yeah, great tip.
Yeah. Yeah, we've even done just like a photo shoot of me with like a chiropractor, and it's just still photos. And even that was, it took a long, long time, and it was painful because he's a real doctor.
Oh, wow.
So.
Wow. Yeah, I guess photos might be easier, like a kind of slideshow type of effect. Is that what you did?
Yeah, well, it would be easy. It is easier than video, but I'm just saying it's still not easy. Just someone who actually does the thing every day is bad at acting out the thing they do every day.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Great questions, guys. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Diane has a good comment, a good point on maintenance. Just making sure that you're looking at the whole picture and how you're going to maintain content.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons I wanted to go down the path of video bites. Like what we're trying to focus on is 2 or 3 minute videos rather than anything longer than that. And then that means that if something needs changing, yeah, okay, if it's the whole thing needs changing, you need to replace 20 videos. But yeah, you could just remove or change the one that needs changing, and you're not having to do the whole thing again.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that just 2 or 3 minutes as we're learning, it challenges you to be really succinct, which we should be doing anyway, and B is really great for the retention, because you're not giving them too many things. It's like we're just going to focus on one thing. We're not going to try to teach you everything. It's just this one thing.
Yeah.
So. All right. Well, we're getting to the top of the hour, so we'll go ahead and conclude. But I just want to say thanks again to Ant. Let's give Ant a little chat love here. Thank you very much for taking the time out of your late evening to talk with us about videos and share your wisdom. And we really hope that the session next week goes incredible, and let us know how it goes.
Yeah, well, thanks so much, guys, for listening. I hope that wasn't kind of preaching to the converted and boring for you guys. But yeah, I really appreciate you kind of listening and being interested and asking so many questions. So yeah, I'll let you know how it goes, guys, and see you on YouTube, hopefully.
Yeah, awesome. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great week. Talk to you soon. Bye.